First off, just want to say thank you to all the new members and everyone who liked or shared one of my videos. Really appreciate it. I've been posting here for about 6 months and hardly had any momentum whatsoever. And I was actually getting ready to just quit posting just because I don't care about ever going viral, but I just want the information is so important to me. And let's get started. One other thing, I write a lot of my material before I post as well, because I will go on rants and just go on so many different things, and this helps me stay on point. These are my own thoughts and opinions. I hope you enjoy. How frozen light created the Metatronic grid, or I was thinking maybe the moment matter turned against source. But this is the lineage of the fallen and the time trap of matter. Before the flood, before Egypt, before even Atlantis collapsed beneath the waves, the Watchers descended, the Anunnaki, the fallen angels. They came near the end of the Atlantean age, not to help us, but to harvest the light. They taught mankind forbidden technology, sacred geometry used to control, not create. The earth responded with a great cataclysm. Maybe more than one. The Bible speaks of the flood, but the earth has seen many resets. When Atlantis fell, not all knowledge was lost. The bloodlines of the fallen were preserved. Underground cities, polar civilizations, the Nuna, ancient ones who had rebuilt before and emerged once again and again. From Hyperborea, the land beyond the north wind, near the top of the toroidal earth, where the polar vortex opens the gate between the inner and outer world. From there, they came down into Ireland, and this is right after the last flood. Down into Ireland, into British Isles, the Tuatha De Danann, the Aryans, the shining ones, not gods, but god makers, red-haired, luminous beings carrying the flame of the fallen geometry. This is where the Metatronic grid takes shape. It's not a physical cage, it's a 4D overlay, a false architecture projected from the etheric realm. It's not made of stone, it's made of language, dead words, digital commands, inversion, control. It bends light, but not with nature, it bends against nature, against the source, creating a flat, hollow, AI-generated false reality over the top of living creation. The original light still flows underneath, through the trees, the water, the breath, and the heart. But above it sits the Metatronic web, a two-dimensional inversion cast from the fourth dimension by those who lost their place in the fifth. And every time humanity rises, they hit the ceiling of that false dome, unless they awaken, unless they remember. You've heard the stories of angels descending, of gods walking among men, of watchers from the stars. But what if I told you it's all the same story, just told from different perspectives and filtered through the veil of time? The Anunnaki were not just extraterrestrials in a spaceship, they were etheric to matter beings. Higher dimensional intelligences that could descend into density, into the material plane. But in doing so, they fell into a trap. The trap wasn't just in the flesh, it was in the clock. Time behaves differently here. They told us themselves they could only stay on the earth for a certain window. Why? Only so long. Because this realm, this dimension, operates at a much slower vibrational frequency. What feels like a blink of an eye in the ether becomes decades here in the body. Their body's aged because time and matter is a form of entropy. When spirit steps into matter, it begins to decay unless it is sustained from the source. This is the tragedy of the Anunnaki. They weren't originally fallen in the way religion teaches. They descended voluntarily, some to guide, some to rule, and some with darker intentions. But once here, they couldn't maintain their frequency. They forgot. They forgot their connection to source. And those who were once light beings became trapped in the density of ego, hierarchy, and control. This is what separates an angel from Anunnaki. Both originate from the same celestial strata, both have etheric origin, but one remains aligned with the higher harmonics, the unfallen frequencies of divine will, while the other choose to descend into material rulership, into matter-based manipulation. This is why the Anunnaki are described with lifespans of thousands of years, because when a higher being enters time, it dilates. But when they go too far into matter, they start aging like us. Their immortality is conditional. It depends on how close they remain to the source field. Let's even go deeper. Time behaves the way it does in this realm because of one thing: density. Every dimension that exists becomes slightly less dense, slightly more etheric. And with less density, time begins to loosen its grip. That's why in the highest realms, what we call heaven, there is no time. Because time isn't a law, it's a byproduct of light being frozen into form. Matter is frozen light. Everything you touch, feel, or perceive in this dimension is light held in place, oscillating around an energy template. That template is defined by consciousness. And it's the rate at which the energy oscillates that determines whether something is solid, liquid, gas, or even something finer. The slower the vibration, the more frozen the light. The more frozen the light, the denser the reality. The denser the reality, the slower the time. This is why the Anunnaki, coming from a higher, more etheric realms, were bound by time the moment they entered into this world. They stepped into a frozen hologram and became subject to its decay. Their light, once fluid, became bound. Now let's trace this back even further to the original spiral timeline, the one that came before Atlantis, before Lemuria, who the Romans called the ghost people, all the way back to Hyperborea. In those days, we were still aligned with the phi spiral, the golden ratio of consciousness, unfolding in harmony with Source. Civilizations like Mu and Lemuria followed that path. But then came the detour, Atlantis. The fall wasn't just technological or moral, it was dimensional. It was the moment we began to curve inward toward the Metatronic spiral, the artificial inversion of the true organic flow. Where the phi spiral leads outward in harmonic proportion, the Metatronic spiral folds inward infinitely like a black hole. That's the trap, a closed system where energy can't ascend, only collapse. This is the fall from eternal now into fractured time. The spiral of life became the grid of control. Mu equals Lemuria, Atlantis, then Egypt, then Babylon and Rome. Each age, the grid hardens, the light freezes more. Time calcifies. The ancient gods didn't just bring language and kingship. They brought time. They brought the calendar. They brought the false mirror of eternity, synthetic immortality. That's when the lower reality was sealed, a realm ruled by the lower chakras, driven by carnal impulse, lust, and fear, taught directly by the watchers in the book of Enoch. The middle realm, that's where the heart begins to awaken. Nature speaks there, remembrance stirs. And above that lies the highest realm, the union of polarities, Christ consciousness, symbolized by the Vesca Piscis, and the undivided light of the One. The Metatronic system traps, the Christos pattern resurrects. Some beings, angels, maintained their light body and never fully fell. Others, Anunnaki, entered deeper, took form, required offerings. They needed energy to stay here, and in doing so, they began to fear death. That's where the real control system began, when divine beings forgot their source and tried to manufacture eternity through domination. But you are not their subject. You are the fusion of flesh and spirit. You are the divine template they tried to mimic. And unlike them, you can rise, not by fleeing the body, but by infusing it with soul, by remembering the phi spiral, the heart gate, the golden thread back to source. The difference between an angel and an Anunnaki isn't origin,